Hello everyone, it is your host HD Samurai here, and I'm here to bring you another part 2, What If Deku Was His Reincarnation, the finale. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. I tried my hardest to make the finale as good as I can, and honestly I enjoyed how it came out to be, but if you guys don't enjoy, well, too bad. But besides that, I do hope that some of you guys do enjoy it, and if you do, thank you all so much. But besides all this, I'm pretty tired with all this talking today, so I'm just gonna pretty much just, play the video now. So hope you guys do enjoy. But besides that, it's your host Sage D Samurai, and it's time to begin this video.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do?
Alright guys, let's begin this what if. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. And either way, let's begin. We now begin with Deku as he's surrounded by all fronts by different types of villains, as we see Shigaraki make his appearance known, along with Machia and Kodagiri, as Shigaraki will be there looking directly at Deku with anger. You took so much away from me. Now, I'll make you pay for what you've done, Shigaraki would say. At this, Deku will look at every single one of the villains there, as we will see a news helicopter now looking at everything as it begins to present it to everyone, beginning to report about what was happening. Now, the report will go wide and spread throughout the entire social media as people all around begin to hear about the news and what was happening. All around, students of UA who weren't there at the incident were actually worried for their classmates, and All Might, who right now at this point, he wasn't a part of the mission as he currently right now was having an off day after an exhausting conversation with All For One and interrogating him. He will end up hearing about the incident. This will cause All Might to now suddenly leap into action as he would enter into his buff form and begin to put on his hero suit as he dashes out the door heading towards his students. Mirio, everyone, don't worry, I'm almost there. As he would then kick off the ground using the power of All One for All to make himself even faster. Back at the side of the villains, Deku begins to look around as he begins to, notice which ones were the real threats and which one weren't the real threats. It's obvious, he gotten stronger, Deku would say as he analyzes Shigaraki as well as Machia. This thing was a behemoth, as this one suddenly he would then feel an attack approaching, as Machia would then throw a punch directly at Deku. Now, Deku seeing the attack would easily and calmly end up stretching his hand, as this is when the attack would then land. This would cause many of the villains to think that, this was already over, considering the fact that this guy was a monster. However, to their surprise, as the smoke would then clear, we would then see Deku holding Machia's fist with only one finger. Is that it? Because trust me, you're going to have to do a lot more than that to actually hurt me. At this, Machia says nothing before he lets out a roar and throws out another punch, but Deku dodges out the way before rushing towards him. Now he begins to climb up on his arm as he, rushes towards Machia, who tries swatting away Deku like a fly, but that doesn't work out, as Deku then appears right in front of him before delivering him a harsh kick to the face. However, this is when Deku's eyes would actually go wide as the attack did nothing to him, as he would then let out a roar as he throws a ginormous fist at Deku, who dodges out the way. Yikes, he doesn't feel pain at all, Deku will begin to realize as he jumps away. And this is when suddenly, as he does, he would then begin to, sense someone approaching as he dodges out of the way just as Shigaraki had to come from behind as he tries to hit Deku over the head and use decay. Damn it, he would say as he tries swiping at Deku, but Deku would then activate time skip as he dodges out the way, making some distance between the two. At this, the villains all around would then roar as they all begin to charge at Deku, as well as the rest of the surrounding heroes that were nearby, like Eraserhead, Mirio, and Night Eye. Crap, there's too many of them, Aizawa would say as he would look at all of the surrounding villains that were approaching him. He begins to activate his quirk, prepared for combat. However, he wasn't very confident. Even with Deku here, the chances were very slim. I can keep on fighting. We would hear the voice of Mirio as he gets up, as he prepares to activate One For All 100% once again. There was no way that he was just going to let up here and now, especially since he can still fight on. Eri, who was still, with Mirio, would actually begin to tear up, as she was still in a very dangerous situation, and things didn't seem to change at all, even with the overhaul gone. As Mirio prepares to fight, however, this is when Deku would then appear right beside him. If you're gonna fight, then I need you at full power. At this, Mirio begins to feel his stamina and his his wounds begin to heal up as he instantly ends up regenerating. What what did you do? At this, Deku had to rewind time on him slightly, allowing him to regain some stamina, as well as, healing up any injuries that he had. I need you to fire your best, alright? You see those two over there? Deku would say as he points at both Shigaraki and Machia. Those two are the most dangerous ones right here, okay? I need to remove them as fast as I can. I can take them out easily, but here it would cause too much destruction and too many casualties. So I'm gonna need you to take care of things here along with Eraserhead and Night Eye. And don't worry, the rest of them will also end up arriving soon. Hold off for a few seconds. And so, with those commands says, Mirio begins to activate One for All as he takes in like a golden glow as lightning begins to sparks all around him. Yeah, you got it. As this one suddenly he then dashes towards the villains before letting out a powerful Detroit smash as this will send a large amount of them packing. Did he just say Detroit smash? This kid's quirk, it's similar to All Might. As this will cause like waves of shock to go through every single one of the villains, as just even the mention of the number one hero was terrifying. And now the fact that they also had to deal with Deku here, this caused them to actually begin to think about it for a few seconds and take a step back. Cowards. Doesn't matter, I don't need them anyway, Shigaraki would say as he looks at some of the pathetic ones that are already thinking about running away. Just as he does though, this one suddenly Shigaraki would then be grabbed by the back of the head by none other than Deku. I'm sorry, but you'll be causing way too much problems here. I'm gonna have to move you to a different location. You as well, big guy, Deku would say as he would getting the attention of Machia, as both him and Shigaraki would end up getting transported away, along with Machia to a who knows where. Eventually, after teleporting these two to a very far away land, Deku would end up returning back as he begins to actually warp away and teleport multiple other heroes that were there, such as Kirishima and, Rocklock, and pretty much any other heroes that were there to join them. He also ended up finding out his master Edshot, who is there currently right now gathering the rest of the villains, would actually also be taken there, as all of them would end up arriving at the area, as they see Mirio going crazy as he knocks away multiple of the villains, shouting out power while doing so. Holy crap, what's going on? At this, Deku gives them the quick rundown of the situation before telling them that he's going to take care of the main problems now. But right now, I need you guys to take care of things here, alright? At this, Edshot will stare down at Deku as he begins to speak. Do you really think you're able to overcome this by yourself? At this, Deku actually then does something surprising as he actually lets out a smile. Not one of those, cold, intimidating one, but an actual casual smile. I'm someone who's able to do anything, alright? When I'm like this, no one is going to be able to stop me. As Deku would say this, he would then vanish away, leaving the rest of the heroes here facing off against the villains. Well, you heard him. Let's take care of things here, they will say as they then get into combat with the rest of the villains as they charge what they cry. As we now turn our location back, and in a very far away part of the city, we will see Deku as he would be in a ginormous plain grassland with Machia and Shigaraki. As he will be teleported back there, Shigaraki will be looking around pissed off. Just what the hell did you do? Shigaraki would say. At this, Deku shrugged. Nothing. Just making sure to keep the damage down to a minimum. Especially since this will be over quite easily. As this went suddenly, as Deku would say this, he would then open his eyes to see Shigaraki's hand already right in front of his face. Die! He would shout. As this when he will activate his quirk, causing mass destruction. And honestly, he thinks he actually killed Deku right then and there. You're too slow. Deku's voice would then be heard as he appears right behind Shigaraki, as he ends up knocking him away with the backhand. Now, Shigaraki would be able to recover it instantly, as this one Machia would then throw a fist at Deku as he dodges out the way before rushing towards him. And I'm having about enough of you, Deku would say as he lands a powerful blow to Machia's fist. However, as he does, Deku's eyes will actually go wide as the man would take the hit, like he would legit eat the hit, before looking back down at Deku. I'm sorry, but Master says you must die, and I will follow his orders, he would say. As Deku would stare at him, he begins to analyze every single bit of his strength and abilities. This guy, I'm beginning to actually pick up on it. Number one, his endurance was way off the charts. Deku's hit should have at least blown his head off, but he was able to tank it. And another thing was the fact he didn't feel even a single bit of pain from that hit. That didn't make any sense. As Deku realized this, he begins to move around once again, as he appears right behind him, throwing a kick to his face. However, as he does, this one Gigantomachia will actually turn around in a ginormous amount of speed. What? At this, he would try slapping Deku away, but Deku would dodge out of the way just in time as he flips over and regains balance. You're making this difficult. I gotta follow Master's orders. I'm sorry, but you're pissing me off. As Gigantomachia would say this, he would then begin to increase in size as he begins to get agitated. Now this would actually, surprise Deku once again. So he can increase in size. He can't feel pain. He has ginormous endurance. This guy's quite interesting. But I know exactly how to take him down, Deku would say, as there was one thing that Gigantomachia didn't prepare for, and it was the fact that Deku already had his vulnerable spot on deck. Just as he was prepared to hit those vulnerable spots, Shigaraki would then appear as he tries swiping at Deku, but Deku would dodge out the way. I forgot about you for a few seconds, Deku would say honestly, as Shigaraki would then begin to laugh. I'm gonna annihilate you. There'll be nothing left. And when I'm done, I will rescue Father. As Shigaraki would say this, he would then once again activate his quirks as he slams the ground, causing mass destruction to the surrounding area. Gigantomachia isn't affected by it at all, as he's able to endure any pain, or in fact, he doesn't feel any pain. As due to this, Deku, of course, has to dodge out of the way from the attack, but this will cause ginormous amount of destruction all around the area. Luckily, they were far away from the city, so that means nothing bad happened. As Deku would dodge out of the way, he sighs as he would then play a Keyblade. I'm just gonna have to kill you. It's simple as that, Deku would say as he looks directly at Shigaraki, who ends up laughing. Then try it already. With that being said, Deku would then rush over. Gladly. At this, Deku begins to slice Shigaraki on all different fronts, as with speeds that Shigaraki couldn't even react to, he legit ends up wiping out and taking out his limbs in an instant. As by the time he's done, Shigaraki had been cut up multiple times all over. However, to Deku's surprise, he would regenerate in an instant before swiping it at Deku. I see. So he was able to regenerate. How annoying, he would say. As this is when he would then try doing so once again, as this time Shigaraki just tries attacking Deku over and over again, but Deku ends up actually hitting his vulnerable spots. He ends up going for these hits over and over again, and Shigaraki would actually, get hit in the pressure points, causing his body to go limp and fall over. However, as he does, he would then regenerate faster as he begins to charge at Deku, trying to increase his speed and his power. You finally begin to notice, haven't you? You can't defeat me. You have lost. And now, you will die. Shigaraki would say as he rushes at Deku over and over again. As Deku would try cutting him up, he would hit his pressure points, but nothing was working. You have power, I'll give you that much, but you're still nothing compared to me. As soon as Deku would say this, he would then begin to activate his power, as this is when Shigaraki would actually be frozen in time. What? At this, Deku would look at him as his voice begins to boom in. You are powerful, but you weren't always, Deku would say, as he begins to actually activate his new ability. Mastering his power, he began to surpass the level of strength that he had even in his previous life. He had trained down to the bone, putting his body to the point where even though it looked human, it wasn't at all. As Shigaraki's body begins to actually lose its abilities. What are you doing? Stop it! Shigaraki would shout as he was trying his hardest to try to move, but it was impossible. He was stuck, he was frozen. He couldn't move at all. Deku was currently right now removing the abilities as time rewinded on Shigaraki's body, putting it back to how it usually was. As Deku will begin to speak up once again. You can gain strength, but at the same time you can lose it in an instant. So I want to see how much farther you can go now that you lost those precious boosts of yours, Deku would say as he rewinds time on Shigaraki's body before finally letting up as he still didn't have the best control over the power. Shigaraki's body would then fall down as he finally is now able to move, but it was already too late. He would try to control his power, but the craziest thing was he couldn't. What did he do? Shigaraki would say as he looks at Deku. Now what Deku did is I'm the narrator here, I'll explain to you as Deku had effectively, he didn't just, rewind time or relying things like he did for the apartment. No, he had to be very specific on where he wanted Shigaraki to lose his powers. But he finally did, though, as he actually focused on a certain part. Now, like I said, Deku has studied the body very well. After all, he was an assassin, so he collected a lot of information on this world. And due to this, after finding out all this information, he focused on a very specific part of Shigaraki's body. Pretty much, he locked away Shigaraki's quirk. But by focusing on this part, he also made sure not to, by concentrating on this part, he made sure not to like rewind Shigaraki's body. So he's not like, just like turned into an infant or like turns into a child. It's an idea that I thought of, and I think it's I'm surprised that Hit didn't actually unlock this ability. Because I'm just telling you right now, this guy, like I said, this guy had the potential to become one of the most broken characters. And also, if you guys don't know, I just like time manipulating abilities. I just think they're really cool. But moving on. As Shigaraki would be there, he couldn't believe it. He lost his power, his quirks, everything. Damn you. Damn you! He would say as he rushes at Deku, trying to attack him for taking away everything from him. But Deku would then casually catch Shigaraki's arm before snapping it, causing the man to cry out in pain before he's kicked away. At this, as Shigaraki, winces in pain, this is when suddenly he then realizes something as he laughs. It doesn't matter, because he will finish you off in my stead. Shigaraki would say, as he looks like again to Machia, who swings an arm directly at Deku, who dodges out the way. At this, Deku will look again to Machia as he charges at Deku, now attacking like a wild animal. Seeing what happened and honestly not able to do anything pissed him off a lot, as while Deku was doing this, he did it so fast, like again to Machia couldn't do anything. And also due to the fact that, the longer that Deku stayed alive, the more times he felt like he was disobeying his master orders. This just caused them to be ginormous to the point where people outside legit thought they were looking at some type of Godzilla or something. Machia began to throw blows as he tries hitting Deku, but Deku would dodge out the way. Now, while doing so, we now turn our attention back to the heroes, as on that end, thanks to the commotion that was going on, multiple heroes then rush at the scene as they also begin to tackle on the group of villains. As Aizawa would see Mirio pushing himself to the limit but getting exhausted, he then turns his attention onto Kodagiri, who was the one who was opening the portals. I promised to get you back. I'm not giving you up, no way. With those final words, Eraserhead would then activate his quirk to its fullest potential as he pushes himself. As with this, he stares directly at Kodagiri, causing the man to actually, his quirk to actually be gone in an instant. However, this came with a backlash as Aizawa's eyes began to bleed slightly, but he didn't care. Seeing his friend there and seeing that the hold was now gone, he pushes himself to stare at him even further. As with that, he then rushes over, catching him as he was now there, unconscious. As Aizawa holds on to him, one of the other heroes, as like it was a recover hero, rushes over to him, as they tell him that he needs to close his eyes because he was pushing himself too hard, but Aizawa would then shrug. It's okay, I can deal with it. Right now we have to focus on him, he would say. As with this, Aizawa would then, activate his quirk for the final time before finally letting go, as he then passes out due to how much restraint he was doing. But after doing so, Eraserhead did exactly what he does. He erased the quirk, but what he did was something far more than he ever done before. And it's something that I pretty much have a theory about, because if Eraserhead is just able to stare at someone and temporarily close down his quirk, what if he pushed himself even further? What if he stared at someone for so long, he could actually just completely erase the quirk, making them quirkless? I would say that in this timeline, Aizawa gets an awakening similar to that, as he pretty much stares at him, pushing himself even further, and to the point where he actually ends up erasing the quirk that Kodagiri had. Now, while this ends up releasing the hold that Kodagiri had on his friend, this did end up making his friend quirkless in the end. But at the end of the day, his friend was saved, so I'm just going to go with it, As we now turn our attention back to the battle, we will see Mirio as he was pushing himself the hardest out of everyone here currently. However, he was running on steam now. I can keep going. I just need to push myself a little further. You will hear Mirio's inner thoughts as he then collapses down to one knee. Hey kid, are you alright? As Shaw would then shout out as he looks directly at Mirio, who then nods his head. Yeah, I'm just a little bit winded. Trust me, I can push myself a little bit more, right? Plus Ultra, right? He will say as he tries saying this with confidence or as much as he can muster, but just by looking at him, Edgeshot knows that he's at his limits. He's been fighting on for too long. If he goes any further, he might actually permanently damage his body. As Mira tries to get up, though, this is when suddenly a booming voice would then be shot out, as he then screams, "It will be alright, everyone, especially now that I am here." We will hear the voice of All Might as he slams down into the ground. As he looks at all the villains that were there, as all of them seeing All Might would then realize, like, they fucked up. Holy crap, that's the #1 hero. We're screwed, shit. As some of the villains at this point are now backing out. After all, with the new arrival of the heroes plus All Might, this was doing too much with them. And now that Kodagiri was unconscious, as he was currently right now being taken away, this left him in a very bad situation. We have to retreat. We have to retreat. So they begin to shout out, as this will cause many of them to react similarly as they try running away, but All Might ends up laughing. "Sorry, but you just being here had already sealed your fate," he would say, as he begins to rush over, knocking out multiple of them in an instant. As this will cause many of them to cower in fear as all the heroes begin to gang up on them. "Alright, well, all these things should be taken care of here, but where's the other one?" he would say, as he had seen this ginormous behemoth or whatever it was being right there, but as soon as he was about to arrive, it was already gone. As he wonders exactly where it is, though, this is when suddenly he ends up hearing a booming roar as he looks all the way in a far off distance. Standing large and looking very pissed off, we will see Gigento Machia as he was right now using up his full power, getting pissed off at the fact that Deku was still alive, considering the fact, he felt like he was disobeying his master's orders, and his master's orders must always be completed. As we will see him, rising up, he will stare down at Deku as he gets pissed off once again, telling him that he needs to die. However, Gigento Machia will also begin to acknowledge Deku, saying that he is strong, but his master's orders must be completed. Now, as Gigento Machia would say this, Deku would then form a Keyblade once again. "It doesn't really matter how strong you really are," Deku would say. Even though Gigento Machia was strong, and he had high endurance, and it also seems as if he had multiple other abilities, it didn't stop Deku from already finding his weak points. After all, he was an assassin, and not just any other one, he was a legendary one. As Gigento Machia would then take on a very sharp appearance, as he would grow into size, he would then charge at Deku as he throws both of his fists down to the ground, like the Hulk. As by slamming these fists down, he would cause a massive earthquake all around the city, causing many people to actually stir around as they look at this monster that was currently right now rampaging and was heading dangerously close to the city. As they all panic, All Might seeing this will try, rushing over there. However, many villains surround him. "I have no time for all of you. Get out of my way," he will shout as he sends them all flying. As one of the random heroes there will then speak out, telling All Might that he should go on ahead. "We can deal with things here, but that thing, that monster, you're going to have to take care of it on your own." At this, All Might looks at this as he sees the rest of the heroes nodding their heads, as All Might will then dash up to the location. "Young Midoriya, I don't know why, but I can pretty much tell you over there, so please, can you hang on a few more seconds?" All Might would say as he dashes off to the location. Deku, however, he was chilling. He would dodge Gigento Machia's attack as the quake had actually caused massive destruction and just kicked up a bunch of dust. "Dang it, this dust is getting everywhere. It's starting to piss me off," Deku would say as he brushes off the dust that was on him as he looks directly at Gigento Machia. Before forming a Keyblade, he would then dash over to him as he then, in an instant, would then actually slice off one of Gigento Machia's fingers. This would surprise Gigento Machia as he didn't feel pain, but his body was practically indestructible. So how did Deku, just how the heck did he do it? How? I know he can't be strong, or no, he can't be stronger than me. It's impossible. I won't allow it. As he would then throw another hit at Deku would actually begin to smile as he throws multiple blows at Gigento Machia. It doesn't matter how large you are. It doesn't matter how strong you are. In the end of the day, I will overpower you. And in the end of the day, I will always beat you. You are nothing to me, Deku would say as he slices off, cutting Gigento Machia as he tries to harden his skin. He tries doing everything in his power to stop himself from being beaten, but it's no hope. As after a while, Deku ends up finally slashing off his arm and another arm before leaving off his head. At this, Gigantomachia was now leaning on the ground as Deku would then finally land the finishing blow. As a proud assassin, he finishes off with a clean cut to the head, as Gigantomachia's head would then be sent flying. "I tried, master," Gigantomachia would say, as he would then pass away right then and there, as his body would then collapse down to the ground with a thud. Now, the ginormous body collapsing would actually cause a ginormous shake from the entire city, as people were unable to do nothing more but watch. To them, it seemed like a little fly had just pretty much come in and just take this guy down. But in reality, it was Deku, as he was casually flying in the air. Looking against Makia's body, he collapses over. "Great, I'm gonna have to clean this," Deku would say, as he had now had to clean all the blood that was all around him. Now, this was gonna be annoying to pick up later on, but I mean, at least this was over. Impossible. 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 Shigaraki couldn't believe it. He beat him. This can't be. And he just beat him with his regular power. He didn't resort to his cheap tricks. How? At this, Deku then calmly walks over to him, and Shigaraki would look at him. No, he would say as he looks directly at Deku, trying to activate his quirk, but nothing was happening. As Deku walks over, he would then casually loom over Shigaraki, as he could then put the Keyblade directly to his neck. You know, if you actually want to know something, you never stood a chance from the very beginning. And the craziest thing is, you haven't even seen or witnessed my full power. And the thing is, you probably never will. It's endless, Deku would say as he begins to release his power, as the ginormous amount of energy begins to quake all around the entire city, as people begin to feel this intense pressure. While many of the villains fear, many of the people actually, they're not really affected by it, but they feel like this heavy, almost as if a ginormous storm was ready to crash upon them. However, it was not intimidating them for some reason. Shigaraki would sense this ginormous feeling of dread looming over him. He can do nothing but stare into the eyes of Deku. "You monster." As Deku would then finally end up slashing off Shigaraki's head, he would finally say his parting words. "Yeah, you're right." As with those final words, Shigaraki would then fall over, now dead, as Deku would then walk away victorious. Now, as he does, however, he does end up, transporting both the bodies of Shigaraki and Gigantomachia, putting them in a location even farther away from the city, before suddenly end up forming a ki blast, obliterating their bodies, leaving nothing left. Great. As Deku would then end up warping back, he would see the destruction that he caused, as All Might ends up arriving. Oh, you took care of everything?" he would say. As he looks around, he actually realizes that Gigantomachia's body and Shigaraki were no more. As he looks around, what happened? At this, Deku calmly walks over to another part of the damaged area, saying that he just took care of it. At this, a cold chill will go down on my spine as he looks at this kid. "Seriously, he's a monster," he would say. But he doesn't realize everything that went down, and he can't say that Deku did a bad job. As he tells Deku and asks him if he was okay, to which Deku nods, saying that he was going to repair everything here. As All Might would make sure that everything was okay, he then dashes back over there to see that almost all the villains that were part of the groups were all captured. Now, some of them were dead, however, many of them were captured as they were, taken away. As Deku would look at everything, he then activates his power, now returning back and fixing the destruction of the land. I'm going to have to get used to this in a few more years, but I've truly surpassed the potential I had. As Deku would then end up recovering the scenery all around, as the surrounding area was recovered, he would then sit down on the patch of grass, looking up into the sky. My strength surpassed almost everything in this world now. Like this, Deku would sigh, and honestly, he's pretty upset. He has far surpassed his abilities, but they didn't even give him a challenge. Gigantomachia at best just allowed Deku to hit him with full force, and not to scream out in pain. But that was just about it. He couldn't release any of his other abilities, considering the fact they were too powerful. He could literally just wipe out the planet if he wanted to. But as Deku would think this though, he would then shake his head. Who am I kidding? It doesn't matter if my power or I'm not able to challenge myself. The greatest threats here are now taken care of, he would say. As again to Machia, Shigaraki, and now All For One were taken care of. But as he thinks of All For One, he then gets up, realizing there was still one last thing to do. Writhing in his cell, All For One was laughing, thinking that his plan was now fully into action. Yes, perfectly. And once they're taking care of that brat, I'll return. I'll become stronger than ever. As All For One begins to laugh like a maniac in a cell, this is when suddenly he ends up hearing a warping sound. Unfortunately, that won't be happening anytime soon. The booming voice of Deku ends up terrifying All For One. No. As he begins to shake in his strap jacket. What are you doing here? No. If you're here, you're breaking your own rules. It doesn't matter, huh? Even if you were to eliminate me, they'll find out about it. You'll be taken away, he would say, as he laughs like a maniac. But he would then begin to realize, number one, the lights in the entire facility was off. The cameras weren't on either, and there was no one around. But how? He would say. Even his own men weren't able to figure out a way to do this, as the security system they put All For One in was high top. Come on, he's legit the number one villain, or at least he was before he was captured. But still, thanks to the fact of his previous title, they would of course keep him on a type lock. But this, Deku had just bypassed everything that even his own team couldn't do. At this, All For One realized the situation is in. This can't be. I've lost. As All For One would say this, he would then be killed in an instant, as Deku would hit a very certain point in the neck, snapping it and causing All For One to die. As the man's body would be there, limp, Deku would calmly stare at the body before walking away, as he honestly forgot that he didn't finish off All For One. But now that he was gone, Deku felt like he finally completed his purpose. All the impending threats that were supposed to come to this world was now taken care of by him. As with the final look at All For One for the last time, Deku would end up warping away. As just like that, all the lights in the area would then turn on, causing everyone to look around, as many of the doctors and many of the people there guarding All For One would see that his body looked very limp, like he looked like he was asleep, unaware that this man was already dead. As we now do a time skip. So with the following events now ending, the report was spread far and wide about the events that had occurred, causing people to be terrified, but honestly glad that things had gone so well. The amount of deaths that happened were actually decreased tremendously, as not a lot of people had died in this event. And the ones who did die, they were nothing more but villains. All the heroes were A-okay. Some of them did get injured, but they were okay. And with this event finally coming to pass, many of the people began to speculate that this was the end of an era, and that a new one was now dawning in, with new heroes, new abilities, and this caused many people to wonder if the future would be bright for them, or would it be bad? As after these following events, there was also many reports going on about the drastic decrease in crimes, as many villains were scared, especially since the fact that All Might was now returned back to his potential form, as he was roaming around, being faster, as he began to make more frequent appearance. This caused many people to actually be surprised, considering the fact that he looked way younger. Now, not so young, he looked like a teenager, but he looked younger than he did before. He still was mega buff, so there was that. And another shocking news was the fact that All For One was actually declared dead to the public, saying that they found his body limp in his cell, and that he had been killed automatically. No one really knows what was the cause of death, but they did know that this was the end for All For One, which once again signified the end for this generation, and that they were now moving towards the next one. As many people wondered and speculated, we now turn our attention to UA. We will see all the students currently gathered there, as after the many following days, many of them had time to recover, had time to chill, stay in their complex, as they still have to stay in UA, of course, but in the meantime, as things were recovering and everything, things began to chill out more often, since the criminal and the crime rates were going down. They still stayed vigilant, of course, but they've been enjoying their times now. They're just acting like typical high school students. As we see Deku currently walk into UA, as he just walks there, He will then gain the attention of all his classmates as they wave at him. Yo, Midoriya, where you been? It's been a while, man. As each one of them begin to, ask Deku where he was, as he had been away from the longest time. Now, sure, they had heard that Deku was doing okay and that actually he was spending time with his mother, but the entire time they wondered exactly like what was he doing or was he okay. So Deku shrugged, saying, "What? Can someone not spend time with his family?" At this, it would cause them to actually blush as they, shake their heads, saying no. However, as Deku does, he would then sit down as he realized that now at this point, all he can do was, continue on with the responsibility. No one will probably end up reaching my level of power. It's understandable. But I did ask for the responsibility, and I'll continue on for it as long as I live in this world at least. As Deku, or no, better yet, Hit would say this, he will look out the window as he sees a butterfly passes by, as he ends up sending a smirk, as we now fade to black. And with that being said, guys, this is the final part and the end to What If Deku Was Hit's reincarnation. Thank you all so much for coming along with me on this journey, guys. This What If has been amazing. I personally enjoyed it as this pushed this really did push like a lot of my abilities as a what ifer. I came into this with like a lot of ideas and like what I wanted to do and everything, but the thing was these ideas went in so many different routes. Like this what if could have gone like in so many different ways. The ending could have been different, the beginning could have been different. There were so many things I wanted to do, but I feel like this was the one that was just right for me. I enjoy making these what ifs and I enjoy making them for you guys, but I also do it for my personal entertainment, of course. If you guys didn't like the journey, if you guys didn't like the journey and if you guys didn't like the ending, well, too bad, I guess. But I enjoyed it for what it was, and if you guys did enjoy it, thank you all so much for your support. But besides that, guys, thank you all so much for tuning into these What If series. And this is your host, Seiji Samurai, and he's signing off. But before I go, I want to give you guys a little bit more of an announcement. The fact is, guys, number one, if you guys wonder why exactly didn't Hit just solo everyone, because I know one of you guys are going to start commenting this, is simply due to the fact that he didn't want to. Now, he could. He obviously could. He could legit destroy the entire world if he wants, but he didn't want to, mostly due to the simple fact that, well, he wanted to restrain himself. He wanted to, push himself. And although Gigento Machia and Shigaraki didn't give him the best challenge, heck, even All For One wasn't nothing to him. In the end of the day, they at least did something for him, and it made him realize that he is now undeniably the strongest. He legit can solo them. However, he was the one who picked up this responsibility, so of course being Hit and following his code, he decided to stick to it until eventually the next life. And another thing, guys, I want to announce is that this What If had taught me a lot of things, mostly due to the fact that I need to actually write down very important information that I need to remember. As during this time of this What If, the reason why sometimes you guys see me post one day and I say I'm going to post next, but unfortunately I'll just go off, is because of the fact that I went on vacation during the month of making these videos. And I'm probably going to go on vacation again following the next month of summer because, summer's still going on and everything. But due to this, guys, I realized that I need to write down some information to make sure. So don't worry, guys. I'll make sure to write down the information so that way I can continue the flow of the story. After all, I make these What If for fun, and the most fun for me is actually writing a story that has a good flow, a good and consistent flow, which is what I'm trying to do for the next future What Ifs. And with all this being said, I believe now it's time to fully end this video, as this is your host Seiji Samurai, and he's signing off. Hope you guys have a lovely time. Peace.